I want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode. We have been at it today, guys, with several episodes here today on Corona Chronicles Live. I am so excited about my next guest, Stacie Lynn. We actually are business partners. We met in a Facebook group, and last week we had the privilege of having a conversation on air talking about triggers. So I'm so happy to have her here today because we are going to dive into some more conversations that I'm sure you guys could really take some great notes and get a lot of benefit from. But before we get into that, I want to give Stacie the floor to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm so excited to be here. That was such a fun conversation last week. And that was in my group. So so a little bit about me is I am a single mom. I've got two amazing boys. I have an amazing relationship with their dad and their bonus mom. So I've been divorced for, I think it's almost 9 years. I own multiple businesses. I do consulting and coaching, life coaching, some business consulting. I've worked with small businesses, and then I also own a high-end residential cleaning business, and I live in Pennsylvania. So that's kind of like a little bit about me. I come from the corporate world. I have a degree from Penn State. And yeah, so I've kind of taken my corporate experience, brought it into my business. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. So it's just like I literally rebranded my entire life, I guess, for lack of a better term, last 8 years.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And so you have a group, you've got all these things going on being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start there because so many women think that they can't do a lot of these things. It's like, if you're a career person, in order to do everything good, you can only do one thing. So you have the career, you're balancing, your children back and forth with different homes and, all the other things that go along. I mean, a Facebook group alone, I have one and it's a lot of work. So,
well, now I have two. So I have two.
Awesome. I don't see how you do it. So what I would say is for some woman who's watching and thinks they have to choose, this is really the thing between a career and being a mom, what would you say to them?
I would say you get to decide what your life looks like. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, for me, I share custody with my former husband. And so when my children are with him, I work more. When my children are with me, I take time off, and that includes all my businesses. I can very easily step into that hamster wheel of doing a lot of things and I can manage it. But the question is just because I can do it, should I do it?
I love that.
And sometimes we're not supposed to do certain things. And I've had to backtrack and pull myself out of things because I was like, well, is this a good thing or is this a God thing?
Right.
And that hamster wheel that as women, managing children and households and businesses, you really have to know what your capacity is. Mm-hmm. And you get to then decide. You get to also give yourself permission to ask for help.
Right.
So, good example, who manages the books for my cleaning business. Mm-hmm. Without her, I couldn't do what I do. So those are the things, especially entrepreneurs, I think we tend to think we have to. But the reality is we get to decide what we enjoy doing and what we want to do.
Yeah. And you brought up such a good point about you could do these things, but is it good for you? And, do you have to do it? I mean, it's just, how did you get to that point? Because so many people are on autopilot. That was really my story. 13 years dealing with depression. I wasn't in the bed. I was juggling all these different things, but I really just didn't have that time to reflect, to really think, is this serving me or not? So how did you get to that point of recognizing you could do these things, but is it good for you to do them all?
I'll be honest, it's literally a daily thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's something I'm still growing into that. So as far as like hiring a VA, that was a conscious decision 3 years ago. I knew if I was going to expand my business, I needed help. At the same time, my children don't live where I live. They live 90 minutes from me. So at the same time, I was spending 1 week where they are, 1 week where I live. I had hired somebody into my cleaning business. So I was like, wait a minute, if I'm going to not be here, like physically be where my business is, then I need somebody who can run it when I'm not here. So that was a conscious decision. But I will tell you, probably in the last really being shut down for Corona really, really, really was a huge awakening. Because when we got shut down, I was exhausted. I was literally exhausted. And when I was married, I also dealt with depression. So I have to be very careful for 10 years. So I have to be very careful that I tend to put a lot on my plate so that I don't have to feel anything. So it's like that autopilot, right?
Yeah.
I have literally been deep diving into inner healing, like heart work, inner healing over the last 2+ years. So I knew like some of the stuff I was dealing with were like heart issues.
I love that. Yeah. And so this is a good thing to talk about because, I thought depression was being in the bed, not doing anything. So, not really motivated, not accomplishing anything. So I was doing all these things, but I was depressed. So what did depression look like for you? I think many women think, oh, you know what? That's what I think it looks like. And that is not me. So I don't need help. You know what I mean? I'm just tired or whatever the case may be. So in your situation, what did depression look like?
So for me, depression looked like being numb, like just feeling numb. And at the time I had a toddler, 2, because my kids are 6 years apart. It looked like being tired, being like numb to just like literally, like you brought up a good point, being on autopilot, not giving myself space to feel, not loving myself well, and I'm one of those, and there I have to be careful because we as mothers, especially as a single mom, I am very intentional about making sure I have time for me. And because if I'm not loving me well and I'm not full, so depression also looked like feeling really empty. Because I'm one to pour into others a lot. And we do that as moms. And, when I was married, I did that with my husband, but that's just how my nature is. And if I'm not really intentional about making sure I'm pouring into me and making me like almost a priority, then everybody around me suffers.
So true. I think that is a great point. And so once you really kind of had that aha, to recognize, what, something's not right, how was it that you, like even now, so let's just fast forward to seeing what depression looks like, kind of knowing where you stand. What are some boundaries or guidelines that you have in your life now that kind of help you from it getting too out of hand?
So for me, so I still deal with seasonal depression. So the winter, and I live in PA, it's cold and it's dark and, it's 5 o'clock and it's dark. So I still deal with that. But I personally, how I deal with that now is much different. I do essential oils. I cleaned up my diet, because our diet does a lot of different things to our bodies, right? It also looks like if I'm busy doing a lot of things and my body's like, hey, I just need some sleep, then I actually give myself permission to take a nap if I'm working from home, and that's huge. If it's nice, I go for a walk. Um, it's and also, and again, right now we're kind of all kind of still at home, but it also, when we weren't as much at home or we could kind of be around, um, giving myself permission to have fun.
Right.
You
I
know,
like
like,
that.
yeah, like this past weekend, here was probably a really good example. This past weekend, I woke up, I didn't have my kids. I woke up Saturday morning and I was like, I think I'm going to go visit family 2 hours away and go to church. Like, and so I was like, that to me, I was like, I felt empty. Like, I was just like, I was starting to feel that empty feeling. Like we just feel like
Mhm.
tapped out. And I
Mhm.
knew that I just needed people to pour into me. So
Mhm.
I went and visited some family and hung out with the little kids and, you know, um, and then went to church.
Yeah.
Like something so simple.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. And, also want to bring up, the whole thing about the D word, because there are
Mhm.
many people who, during this pandemic, for whatever reason, you know, marriages haven't survived.
Yeah.
Some people actually went down that road. What advice would you give someone who is at that space of working right now? You're co parenting very well. I'm sure it's been a process, but what advice now, after your situation being what it is now, would you give to somebody who is going through that experience um, in their
I would
life?
say the very first thing is give yourself space and grace
Mhm.
and take ownership for what's yours.
Mm.
That was huge.
Mhm.
Owning what my part of that problem is.
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, for me, my divorce was really ugly and messy at the beginning. So where we are now to where we were is like, it's crazy huge.
Mhm.
And if you have kids, do what's in the highest interest of your children.
Mhm.
Like, don't don't use words against the other parent. Don't manipulate the situation. And know that you got to give yourself permission to feel and to
Mhm.
grieve it,
Mhm.
and you will get it out on the other side, like I promise that, like,
Mhm.
and take action. Stay in action, because sometimes, like, as we're going through a divorce, it's really easy to numb up or be angry. And anger is an emotion, and feel it, right? When then you got to go through that grieving process, and there's 5 steps to grief. um and so it's very easy to be so angry at the other person that you forget that it's sometimes just things happen,
Mhm.
and we don't need to be attached to it. I mean, especially if you were married for a long time, but take
Mhm.
action, meaning create a custody plan that works. Create space at your home for your children. That's huge. I've moved lots of times since I was divorced, and now I own a house where I'm at. And my kids have bedrooms here. It's the first thing I do. It's the first thing every time I moved. I think I moved like 4 or 5 times in 8 years. It's crazy. Every time I moved,
Not more than that. We moved a lot. Yeah.
it's crazy. It's seriously crazy. But the very first thing I did was set up their bedrooms. I was like, "Hey,
Mhm.
let's go shopping. We're gonna," they need to feel like they have a home. It's not just a
I
house.
love that. Mhm. Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is the space that you're in now. You can just tell, that you have mindset, down in terms of knowing the work that needs to be done. So, what advice would you give somebody in, their own journey? Because depression is the thing where, we beat ourselves up a lot with either these illusions about things being perfect, that's not obtainable, or, the past, we can beat ourselves up over that. So, what is it that you do now that helps you to stay positive? And, you've got a great Facebook group, well, two of them. So, and able to be able to pour and give to other people.
Mhm. Yeah. So, for me, the practical things would be is realize and recognize your past doesn't define you. Your mistakes don't define you. If you screwed up, you screwed up. Like, honestly, like, that's how I think now. Like, I make mistakes, and that's just there. It's just part of the journey. That's just an experience, right? And live present. Try and be as present as you can, because if we're caught with the past, right, and then we're too worried about the future, what ends up happening, and this is what I covered in my Facebook group today, my one group, because we were talking about peace. Your peace gets off because your mind and your heart aren't aligned. And so practically stay as present as you can. Give yourself grace, like literally. I do a lot of personal development. Faith for me was huge, because literally, like, without God through this whole journey, for me personally, I don't know where I would have been, because there was times I was hot mess. But and then find someone or some type of inner healing, because here's what I know. Trauma creates different versions of ourselves. And trauma can, even the things you're dealing with currently, can actually be a reflection of things from your childhood. So you want to also take care of that inner peace, whether it's some type of heart work or heart sync or some type of inner healing, because you want to actually get your heart healed and whole, so that as you move forward, your relationships shift, your frequency shifts, because we're all energy. And then you start attracting to you whole, healthy people. So practically, that's what I do.
I love that. And I think a lot of people, the whole thing about attracting, we want that, but it's the element of being patient and doing the right work to attract people. I just remember, being a teenager or young adult, and it's like, well, if I dress this way, I'm going to attract people, or they're going to think I'm successful, or whatever the case is. And it's like, we do part of the work, but not all the work,
Yeah. And remember, we are human beings. We're not human doings. And so when you learn to be with you, then you can learn to do. That was a hard thing for me. That was really hard, because how many times do we actually fight with ourselves and listen to what ourselves are telling us?
That's awesome. That's a good one. Human beings and not doings. I love that. So for somebody who was like, well, I think I need help with this, not sure how to do it, because I think, we think, well, I'm going to just go to the spa. I'm going to go get my nails done. What type of investment should we really be doing for the right kind of self-development to help us move forward, after such major life-altering situations?
I think that investment's going to look different for everybody, to be honest, because some people want to take a holistic approach to it. Some people are going to take a faith-based approach to it. I have done different modalities of healing. Like I said, I think I named like Sozo and Heart Sync, and Heart Work, which is one that I'm a huge fan of. A girlfriend of mine it's called the Heart Work book. And so she really looks at identity and who are you? And then we start the forgiveness piece in that. And so I love her program. But there's so many out there. I know friends of mine have gotten healing through yoga. They've gotten healing through Reiki. You almost have to decide what avenue you are more comfortable with, and that may shift. So that's the other part of that too, is like, I know I started at one point, and then that next piece came, and the next piece came. And so as I got healed, it was almost like it just showed up. So I always pay attention to what just kind of shows up in my life. And there's some books, there's obviously some amazing books out there you can read. I love Audible because I'm so busy. There's actually a book that I've been listening to called The Big Leap. And
I've heard of that.
Oh, excellent book. He talks about your upper limit of joy, So, and that's the other thing too. We get to decide what we focus on. So somebody who's walking through it, you have control of your thoughts.
Right.
So what you focus on, you'll get more of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're focusing on joy and grace and forgiveness, and I will say this is a key, huge piece, is forgiveness, not just forgiving yourself, but forgiving the other person. I have learned I can't do that in my own strength.
Good point. Good point.
That is really, especially when you're hurt and broken, and even yourself, you can't forgive yourself in your own strength.
So true. Yeah. And, so talk to us about forgiving yourself, because I think we bring up so much. Well, you got to forgive the other person. It's not for them, but it's for you. So to even come to terms with forgiving yourself, that's profound, because not everybody even brings that up.
Yeah. So I believe, I'm a firm believer, everything I do, it's always inside out. So we start with ourselves first. And so in order for me to, for example, forgive my former husband, I first had to forgive myself for my mistakes and for screwing up. And there's still times, right? There's still times and those little memories can come back and they can sneak in. But that true heart forgiveness is when you start seeing yourself not for your mistakes.
That's good.
When you start seeing yourself honestly, as when you can look in the mirror and you can say, I love my, and you start, even those those words of affirmation are really powerful because our words are alive and their frequency. And what you can say to yourself, and literally, this is what I've done this. I've said, I forgive myself for, and I started there. And then I could shift to forgiving somebody else.
I love that.
But again, I can't do any of it in my own strength. Like I don't do everything I do through faith. And I'm just like, look, I don't deserve to be forgiven for my stuff, but I'm still forgiven. So why shouldn't I extend the same forgiveness to somebody else? The other part of that too is when you forgive somebody else, just like what you were saying, it's like, it's actually, we say it's not for the other person, it's for you. But here's the thing, you got to realize when you forgive somebody, you actually unattach them to you. It's almost in a way you're actually releasing that person to then have a happy, healthy life. And in return, that's what you're going to get.
I love that. That's good. So this is some good stuff. I hope people are taking notes, okay? But talk to us about some good management tips for our time, because you are doing a lot of different things and doing it well. So many of us are like, oh, I was busy. I did this, I did that, and when it gets down to it, a lot of these things aren't income producing activities or nothing that's moving us forward in our business or anything like that. Yeah. So what tips would you give any women out there who are juggling the things that you do, for example, and making it where it's productive work, not just busy work?
Yeah, so I think take inspired action. Like for me, that's a big thing. Are you inspired to do it? And, like my group, my one Facebook group that actually is, I'm doing a 5-day mastermind on peace. So that actually just launched tonight, just started tonight. That's not income producing as it stands, but it will be, because then there's going to be opportunity to do coaching with me. So I think you need to look at what are you inspired to do and what do you have the capacity to do? So time-wise, I knew what my time looked like over the next 5 days. And it didn't take me long to build it. It's not taking me long to build the content. I keep things really simple. I'm not like, look, I'm not a funnel girl. I usually hire people to do that stuff when I need one. Just because I look at my time. So this is practicality. Is I look at my time. What do I want to do? What do I have fun doing? What do I have the knowledge to do existing? And if I don't have the knowledge to do it, does somebody else I know how to do it? So that my time is used wisely.
I love that.
You know, and I mean, even with, you know, like I said, that's why I have a VA. She goes over my books every month. We go over the P&L statement. You know, she does the billing for my clients. The only thing I do is I do the calendar. Now, my business is small. I kept it small purposely because for my cleaning business, because I'm actually being transitioned. I'm transitioning it right now, but I've had it for 8 years. I've grown it. I've scaled it back. Corona happened, you know, so it looks different, but my clientele is all high end business people. You know, I've got entrepreneurs, all high end individuals who are most of them are business owners. And, you know, one of my clients, he's a health coach, and he talks about not burning out as an entrepreneur and what are the things you do to prevent burnout.
I love that. And I love how you know, really know what it is that you are good at, know what you need to delegate, you know, and so many times we don't have those conversations. You know, we think, well, I'm the business owner. You know, how many times that we're told, well, you start out, you wearing all these hats, and we just, you know, kind of fail when we don't have to fail in some areas.
Yeah. And I think those permission to fail or to grow, right? So if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail fast. But more so is, how do I grow? I used to be the one that I had to have every piece in place before I took a step. Now I'm like, I'm just going to take a step, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work.
Right. I love that.
You know, and so I don't spin my wheels. Matter of fact, just recently I removed myself from some other Facebook groups because it was just too much. I was on amazing leadership team with an amazing group of women, and it was too much for me to, just because I was looking at what was coming up on my plate. I was looking at the holidays. I was looking at time with my kids. And I was like, look, I can't give this the 100% that I want to give it. And as much as I want to be there, it wasn't serving me well.
So true. So true. I think that is so true. I mean, we really just kind of think the way to have more is to do more. And you can have more doing less, you know, because it really is focused time. It is, you know, I mean, I went through the same thing right before the holidays. It's like, look, I'm scaling back. You know, I've got to let some things go, but my time and other things, even just your own industry, you know, researching and doing like, what is 2021 going to look like for your industry? But if you're so much on autopilot, following what other people do, you don't even give yourself the time or the bandwidth to be creative in your own industry, which can be a game changer when it comes to moving you forward in your industry.
Yeah. Right. And I think the other important piece of that is that I've learned to work from rest, not to rest. And I learned that the hard way. So I don't recommend it. But yeah, I had some major health issues 2 years in a row. And to the point I physically couldn't, because I still take care of some of my clients, and I physically couldn't work. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so that was one of those, you know, I'd say coming to Jesus moments of, you know, okay, wait a minute. Why am I like literally, I was like, it was crazy. I had a broken foot. Like crazy stuff happened. And so I'm like, okay, I'm being grounded, like quote unquote grounded to learn how to work from rest instead of to rest. And that is literally that leaning back space of, and we talk about, and this is a new thing, but you, as women, when we are in our divine feminine, our energy shifts, that we're not constantly having to strive and go after the opportunities will actually come to you. The provision and the abundance in every area will actually come to you. You still have to do your part when it does. But I have found that time and time again. I mean, literally 2 years in a row, I'm like, this is crazy. I was like, couldn't work. And I'm like, crazy stuff. Opportunities showed up. And 6 weeks ago, I did the same thing. I took a conscious decision, pulled back, and it's almost like with that pulling back, the momentum pushed me forward into a different direction, but that's totally okay.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, that is so true. That really resonates with me because, when you make that conscious choice, it's just back to what you said earlier. You can do all these things, but is it the right thing for you to do all these things? So that is just awesome. So what it lies ahead for you? What's on your list of goals for 2021?
Wow. It's funny because I mean, I've thought about it, but so my list of goals for 2021 is I want to launch into my coaching business. I want to actually work with women who have a desire to do the inner work and do heart healing with them. I've been given an opportunity to do some coaching for somebody else who does the heart work, inner work stuff. So I'm going to be working with her. There's some other opportunities on the back end of that. And man, 2021, I want my other goal is to also create some content. I'm not sure exactly what it will be around. I know that I will have some around some co-parenting stuff. So that is something that's going to be coming up as I get through, the end of 2020, 2021. And then also one of my biggest goals is to transition out of my cleaning business, not fully, but it's going to look different. I already have the business plan kind of in place of what it's going to look like, and to have a house where my children live. That's like the biggest goal right now. I want to be where they are when I want to be. And in order for that to happen, I need to be online. And so whatever opportunities, I'm literally keeping that an open space because I don't know what opportunities are really going to be coming, but I do have a passion. And I do believe women, especially when you go through divorce or you have trauma or forgiveness issues, we need to do heart work. We need to do that inner work and that inner healing, so we can then step into healthy relationships, with men and women, because then you're going to attract a different type of community as well.
I love that. And, how important do you think it is to actually verbalize your goals?
It's really important because your words are alive. Yeah. Everything, I'm not a big person to journal. That's just not me. If I journal, it's like bullet points, but there are times where I just need to brain dump, right? I just freeform write sometimes, but it's so important to verbalize your goals because your words are frequency. And when you put them out there, the universe just kind of shows up. At least that's how I believe it. Not everybody really agrees, but I think it's really important. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I think, because it's a scary thing, it's like, if you're a person who works for what you desire, and it's like, okay, I don't have any evidence of what I'm believing.
Right.
But, it's kind of like this thing when you're saying it, it's like, oh, should I really say this? Because I haven't even got started. I just have an idea. But there's something to it becoming real by having a conversation about it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Because if we're not even having the conversation, then we're actually going through life on autopilot. If you think about it, we're not, how do we manifest something if we're not verbalizing it? It's not going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to anchor your faith to something, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't know what you're anchoring your faith to, like I have a huge vision. I mean, a big, big, big vision. But I'm like, okay, one step at a time. Because if I look at the huge vision way out, right, it's daunting.
Yeah.
And it's a little like, this is just but I'm like, I know that I know that I know we get to show up and we get to speak into women. And there's so much life that can happen when we as women speak into other women.
So true. I get that. And I think one of the things that I've learned when it comes to my vision is that, I just trust in the word that says, God is the author and finisher of our faith. So when I speak what I feel is my vision, I know it came from him.
Yeah.
So if it is big, that also is like, okay, well, I know I'm gonna have to trust him to get it to manifest because I don't know
where my strength, there's even time, right? How many times, I don't know about you, but you're like, I am not qualified to do this thing that you're putting in my heart. And, he sits back. And I feel like sometimes God sits up there and he laughs. He's like, really? I wouldn't have put it in you.
Right.
And he's like, no, I'm going to qualify you. You don't need to qualify yourself, or disqualify us. Right. But I do. I feel like he's so funny sometimes. I'm like, I look up and I'm like, really?
Hey, I understand that with 15 kids. I'm
you
like,
have to.
really?
Yeah, like you have to. And I'm like, yeah, like we have to. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who she's just like, I just want to have fun. And I'm like, so have fun.
Yeah.
Who says you can't be in business and have fun?
So
you
true.
Should have fun. We are filled with joy. We are joy. We are peace. We are love.
Yes.
And we get to show up. And I'm like, who says you can't have fun in business? Where did you get that idea?
True. So true. Yeah. I mean, I think it's back to that whole thing of being in the mindset of what society says.
Yes.
And there's no room for, even some of these conversations, for women to say, you know what? Okay, I'm a mom. I'm struggling. And another one's like, girl, I'm struggling too. It's a conversation that wouldn't happen if we weren't willing to be transparent. Otherwise, we'd go on and with this mask on and pretend like everything's okay. Because I've been there and done that.
I've been there and done that too. That's why the heart healing was so important, because that's how I lived my life. Like as soon as I started doing that inner work, you almost stop being afraid.
Yeah, I agree.
You do. You almost stop being afraid, and you can almost step into this place where you just like that. Having those vulnerable conversations, while they might feel uncomfortable, you would be surprised what happens in them.
So true. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's like that connection that is really impactful to do something, to make a change, and once you have enough of those, it's like you get addicted to it. I just know for me, I love podcasting. I love having deep conversations that are going to cause me to make a change rather than superficial stuff that I can get off of TV. Right.
And how we're showing up, right? So how we show up for ourselves will then also impact the women and individuals around us.
So true.
So it comes back, starts with you, and then from you, everything flows out. And I believe personally, like we're all connected. I believe that we are all connected. And so if I'm showing up well for me, and that may look different than it does for you. Right. So, but if I'm showing up with my integrity, and if I'm showing up in love and in peace, and I'm showing up with my core beliefs, then everything around me is going to ripple out.
So true. That's some great stuff. So, what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
I can. So I have my personal Facebook page, but my Become One group, which is for women, is open, and I can give you the link. I can drop the link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what final words would you give us during this holiday season or as we prepare for New Year's, whatever you want to share?
Oh, wow. So I was doing in my 5-day mastermind, we were actually talking about peace. And so because I'm doing 5 days on peace, and peace isn't what we think it is, I would say stay in peace. Feel it in your body. Trust it. Say no. No is a full sentence. So say no to the things that you need to say no to. And your peace comes inside out. And it literally, it's when your head and your heart can just kind of match up. But yeah, that would be my final thoughts are, in this crazy world with everything spinning around you, sometimes you just need to stop. Give yourself grace. Give yourself, keep yourself grounded. If you live someplace warm, go stand outside barefoot. I'm all about getting grounded.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so important, right? But that's it. Like, peace right now is what we need. We need people to show up in love, and peace and love actually look like something.
I love that. And I think I love the fact that, it's empowering that we can choose to be in peace.
Yeah.
So many times we think, oh, I just want things to change, as if somebody's going to just, boom, do a magic wand. But we have to make a choice to participate in these things.
Yep.
So that's a great point to bring up. So we just thank you so much, Stacie, for joining us tonight and sharing your words of wisdom. I encourage everyone who is watching to reach out to Stacie, join the group. It's a great one. She gets on and she's so transparent about real topics that can really help you be a better version of yourself. So I encourage you to reach out to her, and she's working on being a coach. So you want to have somebody that you know, like, and trust, somebody that resonates with you. So I encourage you just to reach out, have a conversation, so that you can continue your own journey of being the best version of you.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to join a mastermind, it's free. Started today, runs through, it's called Peace Active. And it's for women only.
Awesome.
I will add that, but it is open, and you just, send the invite through. I'm excited about what's coming this week.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. We want to thank you guys for watching this evening. And again, don't forget to reach out to her, join the Facebook group, and we will see you all on the next episode. You have a great evening, everyone. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.